six friends entered the forest at night, but by morning they had vanished. No footprints, no struggle, nothing. For decades, silence. Until 2023, when hikers discovered 6 backpacks, placed in a strange circle. The forest was silent that night, except for the faint echo of a scream that no one could trace. 6 young friends had gone in together, laughing, carrying their backpacks and cameras. When daylight came, the forest was empty. No footprints, no signs of struggle, nothing. For decades, it kept its secret. But in 2023, a team of hikers stumbled upon something chilling. 6 dusty backpacks, positioned carefully around each other. Welcome to Missing Shadows, the channel that uncovers the forgotten, the vanished, and the untold. Hit subscribe, because every shadow hides a story. They were 6 friends who had grown up together in a small Romanian town, bound by the kind of laughter and secrets only childhood can hold. At the center was Adrian, the dreamer of the group. He carried an old film camera everywhere, convinced that one day he would be a documentary filmmaker. His notebooks were filled with sketches of forests, rivers, and shadows he thought the eye could never truly see. On the other hand was the heart soft-spoken, always humming the same tune when she was nervous, a melody from a folk song her grandmother taught her. She planned to become a teacher and often joked that the boys would be her first unruly classroom. There was Mihai, strong-willed, protective of the others, and always carrying a small silver lighter that once belonged to his father. Serena, quick to laugh, but quicker to worry, kept a worn leather journal where she scribbled fears she never shared out loud. And then there were Daniel and Iona, inseparable since childhood. The kind of friends who spoke more in glances than in words. On that cool autumn evening in 1994, they carried their backpacks into the forest, joking, humming, and taking pictures. None of them could have known that one of those photos would be the last trace of their existence. October 14th, 1994. The town of Romania was draped in the kind of crisp autumn air that carried both the promise of winter and the hush of secrets. The 6 friends had planned their weekend escape for weeks. It wasn't unusual. Young people often hiked into the Carpathian forests to camp, to share stories, to feel the thrill of being alone beneath the ancient trees. They met just after noon at the edge of the village. A few neighbors saw them, backpacks slung, laughter echoing. Adrian fiddling with his camera as he tried to capture a shot of Alina pretending to scold. Mihai, one elderly woman, swore she saw Serena pause, glancing back toward the town as though she had forgotten something, before Daniel pulled her along at 1:30 p.m. They were spotted by a shepherd herding goats across the slope. He remembered Alina humming under her breath, the same tune her grandmother used to sing. They looked happy, he told reporters later, like children, even though they weren't children anymore. By sunset, a faint orange glow was seen through the trees, likely their campfire. A hunter passing near the ridge claimed he heard their voices' laughter, then something else. A sharp cry, a sound that didn't fit the evening calm. He thought it was an animal, perhaps a fox, and ignored it. The next morning, their families expected them home. By noon, worry turned into cause. By dusk, a search party formed. The trail markers led deep into the woods, and then simply stopped. No broken branches, no abandoned gear, no signs of a struggle. It was as though the forest itself had swallowed them whole. And then, silence. For nearly 3 decades, the mystery of the 6 vanished friends lingered like a cold breath over the town of Bistrica. Families moved on, graves were left without bodies, and the forest grew thicker, swallowing the paths that once echoed with laughter. Many believed the truth would never surface, until the spring of 2023. It began with a group of hikers, 3 men from Cluj, who had wandered off the marked trail in search of a forgotten cave. The forest was damp that day, fog curling low against the roots, when one of them tripped over something half buried in moss. At first, they thought it was a rock, but the dull clatter revealed a metal zipper. They pulled, and out came a faded backpack, cracked leather straps, dirt-encrusted fabric, and inside, a school notebook with a name scrawled in shaky handwriting. Alina M. News spread fast. Within a week, investigators and journalists swarmed the site. What they uncovered was chilling. Not 1, but 6 backpacks, weather-worn yet eerily preserved. Each arranged in a perfect circle as if deliberately placed. Adrian's old camera, Mahai's silver lighter, Serena's leather journal, every belonging intact, untouched by animals or time. But no bones. No trace of the 6 friends themselves. The arrangement baffled everyone. Was it a ritual? A message? A cruel joke? As the investigators dug deeper into the soil beneath the circle, they expected answers. Maybe skeletal remains, maybe nothing at all. But what they found buried just a few feet below was something that raised more questions than it answered. Because beneath the circle of backpacks was a shallow wooden box, and inside, silence. The discovery of the 6 backpacks reignited the fire of a mystery that had smoldered for nearly 30 years. Families who had long buried their grief found themselves staring at the past all over again. Elena's younger brother, now in his 40s, admitted he hadn't slept since hearing the news. "It feels like they're still out there," he told a reporter. "Like we're closer than ever, and yet further away." Investigators combed through the forest with drones, thermal scanners, and ground-penetrating radar. They mapped every inch of soil around the circle of belongings. Yet nothing emerged. No human remains, no signs of struggle, not even animal disturbances. It was as though the 6 had simply set down their lives and vanished into air. Rumors swirled. Some whispered of cult activity in the 90s, pointing to the ritualistic placement of the circle. Others blamed the Securitate, Romania's secret police at the time, suggesting the young friends had stumbled upon something forbidden and were silenced. But no documents, no witnesses, no hard evidence ever surfaced. The emotional toll was brutal. Serena's cousin confessed he returned to the forest night after night, searching for her name carved on a tree or some forgotten trace. Adrian's mother, frail and sick, demanded his old photographs be re-examined, convinced he had unknowingly captured something in the woods before they vanished. Each family clung to a thread of hope, even as exhaustion and obsession gnawed at their lives. A false lead nearly broke them. A hiker came forward with a confession that he had discovered bones in the forest years earlier and buried them out of fear. Digging crews spent weeks tearing through the soil where he directed, only to find nothing but animal remains. Hope collapsed back into despair, and then, just when everyone thought the trail was closing again, a forensic technician reviewing Adrian's recovered camera made a startling discovery. One undeveloped roll of film had survived inside. Shielded by the camera's casing, the negatives revealed something no one had expected. When the negatives from Adrian's old film roll were carefully processed, no one was prepared for what emerged. The first few photos were innocent enough. The friends posing near the edge of the forest, Alina laughing as Mihai made a face, Serena clutching her leather journal close to her chest. But then, the final frames took a darker turn. In one, the group appeared tense, their faces caught mid-movement, as though reacting to something just outside the shot. Another showed blurred streaks of light, not from the campfire, but sharp, vertical beams piercing through the trees. But it was the last photograph that made seasoned investigators fall silent behind the 6 friends. In the distance stood a figure, tall, motionless, watching. The silhouette wasn't familiar, yet something about it gnawed at the families. Elena's brother swore he had seen a man who resembled that outline. A local forester who used to patrol the woods in the 90s. A man who, strangely, had left the village the same year the 6 vanished and never returned. The revelation broke something inside Serena's cousin. He had defended the forester for years, insisting he was harmless. He helped us gather wood when we were children, he muttered through tears. How could he have been there that night? His breakdown spread unease through the family's betrayal, suspicion, fear, asterisk. Digging into records, investigators found another disturbing detail. The forester's cabin, long abandoned, stood less than 2 miles from where the backpacks were discovered. The cabin had been searched in the 90s, but only briefly and with little care. Could something have been missed? Journalists swarmed, theories exploded, and the town split between those who believed the figure was real and those who dismissed it as a trick of light. But for the families, the damage was done. The thought that someone they knew, someone they trusted, might have been watching their loved ones in their final hours was unbearable. And yet, the photographs raised another, more haunting question. If the forester was truly involved, why had no bodies ever been found? Because buried beneath this shocking twist lay an even deeper secret. And that wasn't the final truth. The abandoned forester's cabin stood in ruin. Its roof caved in, the windows black as hollow eyes. For years, it had been nothing more than a ghost of wood and stone, swallowed by vines. But now, under the scrutiny of modern investigators, its silence began to crack. Inside, dust coated everything, yet the floorboards revealed faint indentations, as though heavy objects had once been dragged across them. In the far corner, beneath rotting planks, searchers uncovered a hidden trapdoor. With cameras rolling and families watching from behind police lines, the hatch was pried open. What lay beneath was not a room, but a narrow earthen chamber. The smell of damp and decay hit first. Then, the glint of metal. 6 rusted bed frames lined the chamber wall. Chains hung from the beams above, and scattered across the dirt floor were scraps of fabric, fragments of clothing that matched the description of what the friends had worn that night. The families broke. Elena's brother collapsed, screaming her name. Serena's cousin turned away, unable to breathe. Investigators stood frozen, realizing what they had found was not simply a hiding place, but a prison. And yet, even here, the forest's mystery deepened. For though the room bore marks of captivity, there were no remains, not a single bone, not a trace of blood. Just the haunting suggestion that the 6 had once been held and then taken elsewhere. As flashlights swept the chamber, one final object was discovered in the dirt. Adrian's last undeveloped photograph. Ruined by time, its edges blurred, but still visible. 6 friends, huddled together, fear etched into their faces, and behind them, the figure again. Closer this time, watching. In the weeks after the cabin's discovery, the town of Bistrica was consumed by grief and unease. The families finally had proof that their children hadn't simply vanished into the forest. They had been taken, held, and perhaps worse. The old forester, once just a quiet figure in local memory, became a spectre of suspicion. Yet with no living suspect to question, no bodies to bury, justice remained as elusive as ever. For some families, the revelation was a cruel relief. They could stop wondering if their loved ones had simply run away or chosen silence. For others, it reopened wounds that had only just begun to scar. Serena's cousin admitted he could no longer walk near the forest. The sound of wind in the trees felt too much like whispers. Elena's brother visited the cabin once, then vowed never to return. "It's not a place of answers," he said quietly. "It's a place of endings." The Romanian authorities sealed the site, declaring it a protected area of investigation. Journalists moved on to the next story. But for the families and for the people of the town, the shadows remained. Today, the forest looks ordinary, its branches swaying gently over moss and soil. Hikers still pass through, unaware of the chamber that lies hidden beneath their feet. But those who remember know the truth, that in 1994, 6 friends walked into those woods, carrying dreams, laughter, and light, and never returned. Some mysteries, it seems, don't end with discovery. They only grow darker with time. The forest still stands, quiet and unbothered, as if nothing ever happened beneath its canopy. But silence can be deceiving. It hides echoes, footsteps, and cries that never reached home. 6 friends went in, carrying hope and laughter, and what came back were only questions, heavier than time itself. Perhaps that is the cruelest truth of all, that some shadows don't fade. They linger, waiting for the living to stumble upon them, because sometimes the past doesn't vanish. Sometimes it watches.